The 9-2 New England Patriots have won 8 straight games and are heavy favorites to win their first AFC East title since 2019, according to ESPN Analytics and ESPN Bet Sportsbook. New England defeated Buffalo in Week 5 and will host the Bills in a pivotal matchup in Week 15. That alarm tells you that we're going to spend pretty much the rest of this show looking at potential playoff teams and figuring out what might keep them from making a Super Bowl run. Fatal flaws, if you will. Let's start with those New England Patriots. Mina, if they come up short, what will be the reason?
For me, it would be the pass defense. I think there's a couple of things that are making life harder for these cornerbacks, one of which is the absence of pressure. Patriots' standard four-man rush is 27th league-wide, in pass rush win. Opposing quarterbacks have a very long time to throw. These cornerbacks are just being asked to cover for too long. You see that time and time again, and especially against really good receivers like Drake London, you remember, not so long ago. And then the other thing is this. New England's defense, it's interesting. They're phenomenal against the run, but they're phenomenal against the run in part because they're putting a lot of bodies in the box. Not big bodies, just a lot of players. They have the third lowest light box rate in football, which is great, except for, once again, I think they're asking too much of these corners who have struggled in man coverage in particular. So for me, the pass rush has to improve, and they got to make life easier for these corners because teams with really good passing attacks, I think, can take advantage of them.
Yeah, you're a nickel too much on defense for me. In 2025, I can't allow you to play a safe defense and still have success. They are nickel, it feels like, every single snap. And in the era of tight ends, look at who's using nickel. Now, Seattle's a little bit of a different animal because they've got a 230-pound nickel, right? So New England's using a nickel, 5 defensive backs, the third most in the NFL. In 2025, when it's the year of tight ends and smash mouth football and playing under center, if I'm Indy and I don't run it at you 40 times, shame on me. If I'm Buffalo and I don't run it at you 40 times, shame on me. The Chargers, in the way that they use their tight ends, Baltimore, if they get in. So as great as the New England story has been, if New England consistently thinks that they're going to be allowed to line up and play nickel defense in a win-or-go-home game against some teams in the AFC that can and will play smash-mouth, multiple tight ends, fullback on the field football, it'll be an early exit if they get into the playoffs. So I'm telling New England right now, the story's been great. Quarterback's playing awesome. You cannot play nickel as much as you want and get away with it.
Yeah, and for the sake of all three of us not saying the same thing, because we always do, I'm going Drake May in a playoff run. First time, he's playing phenomenal. Everybody is so excited about the way that Drake May has been playing all season long. But if you've been around this league long enough, it's a different animal when you get into the postseason. Every play feels critical. Every situation feels critical. And I've applauded Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels and Drake May for being ready situationally. I think they're one of the better teams in the league from an offensive standpoint. But I just want to see the young fella once he gets into the playoffs. We've seen it shrink some of the best in the league with how they've played. Some of the guys that are currently playing now that can't get over the hump. So that is my one thing with a young quarterback going into the playoffs, especially in the AFC, where you're going to face guys that's been there 2, 3, 4, in Pat Mahomes' circumstance, 7 to 9 times. I'll be interested to see how he responds to that type of environment.
Yeah, Marcus, I would say the only 2 defenses that I would be concerned about him getting into the playoffs and having to face would be Indy and Baltimore. And both of those would be from a schematic standpoint. I got something for the Bills, Graz. I got something for the Bills, brother.
Figure out what their fatal flaw might be when that alarm dies down. Mina, what should the Bills be focusing on?
Yeah, this one's glaring. It's run defense, in particular when offenses use motion. And when they do, they're tied for allowing the most first downs on the ground in football. They're 28th in yards per carry, 5.4. You saw this on display against Tampa time and time again. I mean, on the long Sean Tucker run for the touchdown, I think it was Cam Johnson who comes across the formation and half of the Bills' defense goes with him. This is compounded by the fact that the edges struggle with misdirection in the run game, went after Bosa a few times. The linebackers and DBs are getting thrown out the club. I mean, if I'm a team, I don't know why you throw on them. Quite frankly, Tampa on 3rd down, I was screaming, just run the ball and then run it again on 4th down, because this is a huge problem with this Bills team and is going to continue to be a problem unless they get it fixed.
Yeah, the good thing is Indy only averages like 7.5 yards per carry when they run the ball with motion. This is the problem with this team right now. If Josh Allen doesn't get there, it'll be because of this. It won't be because he falls flat. It won't be because their wide receivers aren't good enough. It won't be because some of their youth hasn't panned out exactly. They cannot stop the run. So watch the second level, okay? 12 personnel. There goes the motion.
Yeah.
Watch the linebacker level. So one group of linebackers, as they're shifting over with this motion, is too close together. And then what that means is that other group of linebackers is too far apart. And so now before the ball gets snapped, I have a seam. And so all I have to do, get a starting point at the line of scrimmage. Now those backers have to flow over the top. Milano's hanging back so much. That's a gashing hole on 1st down. To the point of Mino with the Tucker long run, it's the same formation essentially. Here goes that same motion. What's the problem? Once again, linebackers way too close to each other, and now they run into each other because we're not communicating, we're not on the same page. No one even touches the tailback on a 44-yard touchdown run. America, those are 2 clips. I could find 6 or 7 a game. And so if you're Buffalo, as good and as well coached as you are, look at where they rank right now when it comes to their run defense and handling teams who do it with run or with motion. You're talking Indy does it. You're talking Baltimore does it. You're talking Jacksonville does it. New England's going to do it versus you. If you don't fix this, you're going home.
Yeah, the reason it's so difficult with motion, especially when you get that speed motion is what we call it on defense, is that you have to boss. And in the middle of your boss is when the ball is being snapped. Dan, you highlighted it very well with the movement of going towards the motion that's happening and the play coming to you opposite. The other thing that it does for the edges is it puts so much pressure on the backside to feel underneath. Remember, if you see a guy flash across your face, we're taught defensively that is run away from you. And I need to try to close down the line of scrimmage in case there's a cutback. And Tampa took full advantage of it, like you mentioned, Dan. The other part of this too, man, is it really boils down to setting a new line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
That is how you deal with motion. And Buffalo plays so east and west defensively, even on that defensive line. They need to start getting north and south. I think that needs to be a point of emphasis for Sean McDermott and his defense, because regardless of motion, if you create a new line of scrimmage, you obscure the back ability to see cutback. And that is what they look like they're so concerned with, is why you see those gaping holes, D.O., when the back gets into the line of scrimmage. They have to get penetration. And remember this, y'all, Ed Oliver is not on this team because he's hurt, and he would make a huge difference in this because that is his specialty.
Games, they've allowed just 16 combined points to the Packers and the Lions while playing excellent pass coverage and stout run defense. They'll now look to slow down a Cowboys offense that is averaging just under 30 points a game this season. So, Marcus, those are all good things, but this is the show where we tell you why no one can win the Super Bowl this year. So, with the defense playing as well as it is it safe to assume your attention is on the offense when we're talking about potential problems for the Eagles?
Yeah, look, it's Lane Johnson. That's the elephant in the room, especially in the NFC, where you're going to have to deal with so many pass rushers. And when he gets back, will he be healthy enough to play those type of games? You think about Seattle's defensive line, the Rams' defensive line. You got some guys now that can put pressure on the quarterback. And then, too, are you going to be able to move well enough for them to be what they need to be in the run game? I don't think you can downplay enough how much Lane Johnson means to this football team. Obviously, the blind side of Jalen Hurts when he drops back to pass, Jalen being athletic helps that a little bit, but also in the run game and just overall continuity in this offensive line. It's a big concern for me because these guys in the NFC are rushing the passer at an alarming rate right now with the teams that we expect them to have to face in the NFC playoff run.
You're right to mention Lane Johnson. I mean, the splits when he does and doesn't play are pretty dramatic and have been for some time. And this was already a passing attack in particular that, well, both the passing attack and the run game have struggled. I'm going to focus on the passing attack and just think about what we saw this last week against Detroit. Dak Prescott in that game had a 35% tight window throw rate. To put that in perspective, the NFL average is 15%. There's a couple reasons for that. One, the Lions DBs are good, but it felt like they were all over Philadelphia's pass concepts because they're so predictable. And then even when they played man, and they played a little bit less than they usually do, it was all just, hey, AJ, go win, hitch, slant, go ball. I don't understand why I guess we've been talking about this for some time, but if you're facing man coverage, predictably so, where are the bunches? Where are the picks, the rub routes? Like, there's just nothing that helps the receivers against those looks, and that's how you get that tight window throw rate. So I know we're a broken record with Philadelphia, but it remains an issue, and I think bears repeating because it continues to be the fatal flaw for this football team.
Yeah, I'm giggling because this pass offense is so much like Dallas's last year. I mean, Dallas's last year, I remember calling it the theme paper offense, where it's just straight lines. That's kind of what this pass game is in Philly this year. No, this offense is not good enough to win the Super Bowl for a second straight year, okay? It's the deadly combination of two. Yes.
Dan, let me ask you a question, bro. You've been in so many offensive meets. How hard is it to install some of those things that Mina just mentioned, bunches, rub route? Is that such a philosophical change, or can you do that to try to free up a A.J. Brown and a Devontae Smith?
No, it's very easy to install. It's really about just making sure everybody's on their release patterns, because you don't want to obviously run into each other. But these aren't things that are unbelievably difficult, and having multiple releases and or route combinations off of it, Marcus. They've done it occasionally in the past. It's just not nearly enough. And last year it was so much easier to not have to do it because they had so much of these ridiculous one-on-ones. Right now, this is why I say this offense can't win the Super Bowl, is because it's the deadly combination of two things. Way too many 3-and-outs and not nearly explosive enough. Okay, so right now, 3-and-outs, they're the worst in the NFL. I can have you be a 3-and-out offense if you're unbelievably explosive. They're worse than middle of the pack when it comes to explosive plays. Or I can have you just be an explosive offense if you're crazy efficient. But they're neither. And so there's that deadly combination of they either get a 3-and-out or they have like one explosive play a quarter. That's not going to be good enough against teams like LA, against teams like the Seattle Seahawks. It's going to come back to bite them unless they fix it.
Mina, we're talking about the Green Bay Packers now. What's their fatal flaw over the back half of this season?
Yeah, to me, this is a combination of the offensive line and up till really this last week, the play caller overly compensating for said offensive line. Look, a lot of that can be attributed to injuries. Losing Jenkins, huge blow for them. But you've seen this team throughout the season struggle to get push on the ground, and then Jordan Love was able to make some miraculous throws, but he was under pressure a lot of the time. This is going to be an issue throughout the rest of the season.
Marcus Spears, the Buccaneers win their division every year, but they want to go further into the postseason than they usually do. What is the reason that they can't?
For as much as I love Todd Bowles and how he calls defense, this team gives up entirely too many explosive plays on offense. And it's not just coming off of the Josh Allen performance, because obviously we saw those explosives, but this has been a reoccurring theme. And obviously Jamel Dean went out of that game, and you put these cornerbacks in so much stretch when you pressure, and they got to tackle in the open field and be able to get people on the ground, even if it is a big game. But it's turning into touchdowns and explosive plays. I'm worried about that.
Dan, the Rams got a big win over Seattle this weekend. They're looking great, but if they don't get to the Super Bowl, what would be the reason?
I don't think it's hyperbolic to say this is the worst special teams unit in football. Okay, so one, worst field goal percentage in the NFL. They've made a change at that position. Two, it's the worst kick return, both punt and kickoff return yardage in the NFL. And they're the one of two teams that don't have a 25-yard return in either. So when we're getting into small margins, win or go home, playing big-time teams, special teams are going to matter. It's hard to find a flaw in this football team.
Yep.
I'm being candid. The nitpicking is real here, but this is a very, very bad special teams unit in LA.
Entering the season, Baltimore, Kansas City, and Detroit were among the favorites to reach the Super Bowl, according to ESPN analytics. As of now, each of those teams would not be in the playoffs. The 5-5, that's weird. The 5-5 Kansas City Chiefs will host the Colts this week, seeking to avoid the first 3-game losing streak in the Patrick Mahomes era. Yeah, alarm bells going off in Kansas City. Marcus, what will be the fatal flaw for the 3-time defending AFC champs?
This team has to find some semblance of an explosive run game at times. Like it is so much leaning on the pass game, and we got so excited when Rishi Rice got back because they had a tremendous amount of success. But this league is still going to come down to the line of scrimmage, and I believe you have to be able to do this in order to try to win a Super Bowl, but in Chiefs' case, to be able to get into the playoffs.
Dano, the Ravens are back in it after a rough start to the season. What's the single reason they could still come up short?
The pass game and the lack of crisp and sharp element to it. Ever since Lamar's come back, it just hasn't been there. Bottom of the screen, he wants Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews isn't there. Okay, reset Lamar in the pocket. Look how chaotic he is. He's off balance. That forces a ball behind DeAndre Hopkins. This is his bread and butter. Under center play action, 3-level, a deep sail, a corner, and a flat route. That flat defender is taking the flat route, the corner side. The out route is wide open. Lamar, throw the out route. For some reason, he's looking backside. There's not even an available receiver there. Leads to one of those Myles Garrett sacks. You go a little bit later, a release out of that bunch versus zone. 3rd and 6, Lamar out right now. I've seen you do this hundreds of times to play on time. For some reason, doesn't throw it, runs around. That leads to a sack. That sack is on Lamar Jackson. Him and Zay Flowers being on the same page. Zay's got a 5-yard in route coming towards us at the screen. Lamar throws it on his back shoulder. The pass game right now is just not sharp and it's not crisp. Can it get better? Sure, but it hasn't so far.
And then we have the Detroit Lions. Mina, they are currently outside the playoffs in the 8th spot in the NFC. What will keep Detroit from a deep playoff run?
The interior of the offensive line and the effect that pressure there has on the quarterback. We've seen that now in 2 of the last 3 weeks. The Eagles obviously have dominant defensive tackles. The Vikings were able to generate interior pressure with blitzes. And then you look at the competition that they're facing elsewhere in the NFC. Those two teams. We just saw the Rams create so much pressure inside against Seattle. And then on the other side of the ball, Seattle has one of the best interior defensive lines in the entire NFL, led by the great Leonard Williams and also Byron Murphy. This is a problem because, one, it's always been an issue with Jared Goff. He's been amazing in Detroit, but he does struggle a bit when pressure comes up the middle. And it also is an issue with this offensive line. There was a lot of change going into this season. They've had good games, but it is young and there are problems, and great defenses have exposed them.
Yeah, as the Frank Ragnow retirement really starting to show itself. Marcus, what have I always said to you about Jared Goff?
Oh, play in rhythm and timing?
If you keep him clean, he could throw it with anybody. And that's kind of what he's had since 2022 with Detroit.
Sure.
This year, it's not. And the reality is this. Jared's a pocket passing quarterback, and the Lions offensively are a team that can't keep a clean pocket. And so you're in this situation where we know the quarterback is high level if you do this. Right now, they can't do this. They can't do the one thing that he needs to play at a high level, and that's got to be concerning for Detroit.
Yeah, and look, y'all, we all in the same vein, but I just wanted to bring to attention some of these people that's going to be causing the problems for Jared Goff. Mina mentioned, obviously, the teams, but you look at some of the names, and you guys know this. We talked about Chris Jones for years, about how he impacted games by his play, either in the interior movement or outside. But you think about Tampa and Vita Vea and his ability to push the pocket. Byron Murphy, Byron Murphy and Leonard Williams on the same team. You think about Jalen Carter and what we're starting to see from the Kansas City Chiefs, even bringing Nakobe Dean in some center of the pocket pressure. Jomo, look at these guys. Like, all of the guys that you're going to see in the playoffs, not Dexter Lawrence, take that name off of there as far as being in the playoffs.
Well,
but this NFC and this conference is littered with guys that can win one-on-ones. And we talking about Dallas and don't know if they're going to be able to get in the playoffs. But now Quentin Williams is added to that element as well. So if this run game doesn't take hold in Detroit and you're able to slow these guys and make them think run, I think you can take advantage of this offensive line.
Dano, the Colts have surprised the league. They've come out with a 9-2 start, and they sit atop the AFC. If things were to go south for them down the stretch, what would be the reason?
I would run outside on this defense all game long. It's a really good defense. DeForest Buckner's injury for me is enormous. It's been the injury happened, then they went and played Atlanta in London. Now this is Atlanta's strength. They do it well. But if I were playing against this Colts team, you would see outside zone or split flow zone outside the tackle 15, 20, 25 times. I can clip almost 5.5 yards per run this defense gives up on runs outside. Almost 5.5 yards per run. That's a significant deal. So until that gets better, they set edges better in the run game. And then obviously Buckner's health is going to be a huge part of that. Until they set edges better, teams are going to test them and their ability to stop it.
And I'm going to tell you this, Dio, I just don't want no backslider. You hear me? And I'm talking about Daniel Jones, brother. It is going to come a time where he is going to have to win a game when you get into the playoffs. And I know Jonathan Taylor is on a tear, but we all know, you, me, and MK and Graz know you're not going to run your way to a Super Bowl in this league in this day and age. So, with that being said, he's had phenomenal games. Daniel has played as well as he's played all season, but these last few, I've seen some of that backslide from Daniel Jones. Take care of the football. Obviously, when you get hit, the fumbles, the turnovers, it was to the tune of 6 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they weren't able to win that game. So that is my only concern. And I know it's a concern for everybody else because he has a history. I'm giving Daniel Jones the benefit of the doubt, and hopefully he can have a one shining moment like the NCAA basketball tournament. But I'm scared as hell if Daniel Jones has to win a football game in the playoffs for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, my concern flows from that, which is game script. This team, this offense, this quarterback is much better when they have a lead. When they're tied or better, Daniel Jones is 5th in QBR. When they've been playing down a score or more, that drops to 30th. It's not a lot. They haven't been behind by that much. But to me, that reflects less, Daniel Jones falling apart per se under pressure and more about this offense, which is very heavily predicated on creating run-pass conflict, whether through play action or RPOs. It's been a massive problem of why they're so difficult to stop, especially when they have the lead, because as a defense, you're so afraid of Jonathan Taylor being part of that equation. If you take that out, if they have to play from behind, I get a little bit worried. I think they're capable of it. I think Daniel Jones can play well in drop-back situations, but it's definitely where you take away their greatest strength, and we have seen that this year.
Yeah, I think these are moments also, a tremendous amount of trust in Shane Steichen. One, the experience of getting there with the Philadelphia Eagles. We all talked about how Pittsburgh played them defensively, and then how was he going to adjust? So I think there's the understanding, and Marcus uses the word insulated. This is an incredibly insulated quarterback. I don't know how many defenses that he's going to see down the stretch and certainly in the playoffs that can make them one-dimensional. Maybe Denver can make them one-dimensional. So I do think the load that Daniel has to carry, and I know, Marcus, you're saying you're not going to run your way to the Super Bowl. I think Indianapolis is capable. We saw a team in Philadelphia do it last year.
Didn't the Eagles just do it? Yeah.